Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hi everybody, my name's Mickey Bush and I'm a fully conceited alcoholic. God, it's good to be here. I've been here before, but I don't remember it. I don't know whether it was a sober blackout or not, but I don't know. But I think my memory's fading. Lend me $100. But thank you for inviting me. Oh, Jack. Where's Jack? Is Jack in the room? There he is, back there. Oh, Jack. Thanks for inviting me and asking me back. This is good, this sobriety. We're not disturbing you, are we? Oh, all right. Anyone want to talk during the speaker meeting? Look, the only male up against all these females. Look at this. Isn't that nice? Lovely. Good convention, this one. Good one. Good, I like it and enjoyed it. So thanks for having me here and allowing me to participate and stay here and do what I like to do best, which is stay sober and carry the message. It's just a big thrill to me to do that. It's more exhilarating and more exciting today than it's ever been. You know, I'm coming up on 27 years, clean and sober, and you know, it's more thrilling and more exciting today than it's ever been. You know. And you know what? If you were to say, Mick, is $1,000, tell me the last 2 days in a row that you didn't go to a meeting, I wouldn't be able to take your money. I can't remember the last 2 days in a row that I didn't go to a meeting. I'm a meetings man. I go to lots and lots and lots of meetings. I love going to meetings. I love being among you. You know, it's by far the most important thing I do on a daily basis. So I'm highly delighted. I don't understand Facebook and other technical things like that, you know, too much, but I dabble, you know. I think I've got to find me a 10-year-old or something to show me how to do it, you know. They know it all, don't they, you know. And but I was asked today by a chap who was kind of somewhat rattled, I guess, and he said, like, define sobriety for me. How would you define sobriety? And I thought for just a second, I thought, and my word for peace, you know, and I sign everything peace, MB. And my word for peace is P-E-A-C-E, people enjoying a contented existence. And I think that sums it up for me today. You know, I have a great deal of contentment and peace in my life today, which was totally different to what I was when I got here a little over 27 years ago. You know, people enjoying a contented existence. You know, I was never content with nothing. Didn't matter what it was, I wasn't content. I suffer from that disease that I think that you probably suffer from as well, the disease of more. You know, anybody really know what I mean by more? More, 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 more. Just don't care what it is, I just want more of it, you know. I'd even want more bloody herpes than you, you know, I mean, I just would, you know. I'm just that kind of a guy. I just want more, more, more of everything, you know, and, you know, that's kind of what I am. You know, in fact, you know, I'm a real alcoholic, a total alcoholic. Everything about me is alcoholic. Everything I say, do, think, and feel is alcoholic. It's not just a part of me alcoholic or a big part of me that ain't alcoholic. I'm all alcoholic, see? So consequently, being a real alcoholic, I have the right to be dysfunctional in as many ways as I like, you know. Don't tell me I'm restricted or limited. If there's good dysfunction out there, I want my share of it, for Christ's sake, you know. Don't matter what it is. If there's 12 steps attached to anything, I'm a contender for it, you know. AA, NACA, ACA, overeaters, little Peters, it don't matter what it is. You know, if there's 12 steps, I'm a contender, for heaven's sake, you know. You know, I better back up a little bit because it's rigorous honesty, and so many of you I know and so many have become friends with over the years. And, you know, I have to tell you that I did go to a Little Peters meeting, but they wouldn't let me in, said I didn't qualify. They let Jack in. Jack was all right, you know. You're a rotten lot laughing at little Jack like that, you know. But you get the point. I'm a very sick dude, and thanks to this wonderful way of life that we share today, and the things that you taught me about in the beginning, the very, very beginning, that I never knew nothing. When I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, the very first time I actually went to Alcoholics Anonymous under my own steam was on January the 15th, 1983. You know, and it was in West Hollywood, where I was living at the time, and I'd been going to meetings prior to that, but I didn't know it. I'm a result of like a 12-step call and the process that works here and works good. You know, an English rock and roll singer who was 2.5 years sober at the time, he'd kind of conned me into going to meetings with him, because he said that he had to go to these meetings, and he felt like ridiculous, and would I go with him and hold his hand and just support him. And, you know, we were friends for many, many years, and so I went along, you know. And I vaguely remember a couple of meetings, or snippets of them, because, you know, I don't know what you guys thought or what they thought then, but, you know, I don't recall the meetings very well because I was in a blackout. I was in a blackout in the meetings, and I didn't remember most of them because I'm a blackout drinker, see? Any other blackout drinkers here? And the rest of you lying mothers, I know blackout drinkers when I see them. I never even knew what a blackout was, and I've been having blackouts all my life, you know? I was in these meetings in blackouts, but January 15th, 1983, something happened that I now today know is part of the process of recovery, but I didn't know it then. And I want to tell perhaps the new folks that are here, or perhaps the returning folks, you know, that if what you hear here tonight or this weekend is a bit alien to you, or a bit strange, or you don't quite like fathom it or grasp it, and if what we talk about in the beautiful book Alcoholics Anonymous, this beautiful book, you know, if it seems a bit strange or weird, well then, you know, keep coming back, and more will be revealed. And it's my experience. You guys told me to keep coming back, and in the beginning I didn't understand what you said, but today I do, and everything I know and everything I've learned is all in retrospect. It's all since I got here and stayed, you know, S-T-A-Y, sober today and yesterday. You know, I stay. I know we say keep coming back, but I see folks that literally become keep coming backers. You know, and I say stay here with us. You know, people literally go in and out and in and out, and we tell them keep coming back and keep coming back, and, you know, and I know why we say that, and it was said to me. But become a sticker and a stayer rather than a keep coming backer. You know, now that doesn't mean to say if you go out and we don't want you to come back. We do. We want you to come back. But become a sticker and a stayer. That's what works around here. And you know, that's what you guys told me to do. Keep coming back. It was weird when I first heard that. I'd walked down to this meeting in West Hollywood, and there was two dudes standing outside the meeting. I didn't know anything about nothing when I got here. You know, when I got here, I knew nothing about nothing. I was so sick when I got here. I was so sick that I didn't know I was sick. Do you know how sick that is? You know, that's really sick. You know, when you're so sick that you don't know you're sick, that's really sick, you know. And if you're as sick as I was when I got here, so sick that you scan the room you're in full of alkies and you think, well, I ain't as sick as him. Do you know how sick that is? Do you know how sick it is to be in a room full of alkies thinking you ain't as sick as the next guy? That's really sick, you know. So if you're here tonight wondering whether you is or whether you isn't a real alkie or not, I want you to know that I can relate to being as sick as you don't think you are. You know, really sick. And I never knew, see? Well, of course I do today. In fact, I wrote a word, sick, S-I-C-K. Spiritually ill can kill. And I was dying of a disease I didn't even know I had. But, you know, I guess that's part of what I'll discuss tonight. I knew nothing about nothing when I got here, so stick around and more gets revealed and we'll be able to diagnose what's wrong with us and do something about it, because that's what happened to me. All my life I'd been incarcerated and you know, locked away. I've been locked away and incarcerated in places cuckoos wouldn't fly over, man, you know, but, you know, they didn't know what was wrong with me. And if they knew what was wrong with me, they didn't know how to convey it to me, and they didn't know how to get through to me, and they certainly didn't know how to give me any remedy, you know. They knew how to hurt me, they knew how to bash me up, they knew how to chain me to padded cells and shoot me up with drugs and zap me on electric machines and hurt me and do that whole shit, but they never knew what was wrong with me, and if they did, they never knew how to get it through to me. On the very first meeting that I got to on January the 15th, 1983, you guys, the magic that happens in Alcoholics Anonymous, if you be real alcoholic of my kind, or our kind, the book says, you know, happened for me on the very first day. You guys got up in my face and told me what was wrong with me. And for that, I'm ever grateful. Because I didn't know I was alcoholic. I never knew what being an alcoholic was. I never knew nothing about nothing. I never came in here with the only requirement for membership. I never brought any of that stuff with me. I never knew nothing about that. I never knew nothing about alcoholism or Alcoholics Anonymous or a 12-step wonderful way of life, or I never knew anything like that. I didn't know why I drank. You know, I'm from northwest London. You probably picked up on that, right? You know, I mean, this is the way I speak. Alcohol didn't do this to me, you know, I mean... you know, I'm from northwest London, and where I come from, everybody drinks. Don't know why we drink. Nobody ever asked why we drank. Nobody ever, nobody ever sort of fathomed it. Why do we drink? Everybody just drinks. We never had a reason to drink. We never had a reason not to drink. Everybody just drank. We drank if the team won. We drank if the team lost. If it was a tie, we drank till there was a result. You know, well, that's what we did. Don't know why, nobody ever questioned why, nobody, don't know why. We just drank. Everybody drank, don't know why we didn't drink. You know, never ever a question about it. I come in here, you folks all know why you do it. I've heard it here tonight. I've heard people talking about what's wrong with them and why they drank, and some people said they were drinking because they were hiding behind the pain and they were covering up who they was, and they had all these issues. You know, like, pass the tissues, I got issues, you know. And I thought, at what stage of the game do you discover that, for Christ's sake? I mean, I couldn't even imagine that, man. I cannot imagine going into a pub that I drank at and saying to the bartender, oh, bartender, hit me with a triple shot of your best booze, because I can't stand who I am and I want to cover up the pain tonight, you know. Never happened. Never happened. Oh, Mr. Dealer Man, give me an extra rock of crack cocaine, because I really feel inadequate. You know. Never happened. Never happened. I have no idea why I do what I did. You guys all know why you do it. I don't know why I do it. I just always drank. Don't know why I drank, just always drank. You know, I got 3 sisters and a brother. They're not alcoholic. They don't drink like I drink. They don't know why I drink. I don't know why they don't. I ask them, why don't you drink? They say, I don't like it. I say, what? What don't you like about it? They say, I don't like the way it makes me feel. I say, what? How does it make you feel? They say, well, if I have one too many, I feel sick. I say, sick? You got to drink past that. Who stops at sick? I don't stop drinking when I get sick. I get sick, but I don't stop drinking, for Christ's sake. You're like, yeah. Oh, that's handy, made room for some more. They don't laugh. They think I'm weird. Any other weirdos here tonight? Yeah. No shit, yeah. All my life people say, what is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? For Christ's sake, what's wrong with you? There's something wrong with you. What is wrong with you? What is wrong with you? And they would ask me what's wrong with me as if I knew. What is wrong with you? Oh, actually, I've got a twofold disease. It's an obsession of the mind, allergy of the body. Can't control my drinking. I don't know what's wrong with me. What's wrong with you? Why do you drink like you do? Why don't you drink like I do? See, because I don't know. I don't know why they don't drink like I do, but they don't. My 3 sisters and brother, you know, they once in a while have a drink, but they don't drink like I do. You know, my 3 sisters and brother ain't alcoholic. You know, my 3 sisters and brother ain't alcoholic. I'm alcoholic. I'm alcoholic. They ain't alcoholic. Same blood, same family, same environment, same everything. I am. They ain't. It's weird crap, isn't it? A good friend of mine, he's a twin. He's alcoholic, his twin ain't. You know? My 3 sisters and brother got 2 kids. Well, guess what? I got 2 kids. I ain't never been married, I ain't never had a wife. You know, of my own. You know. But I got 2 kids. I'm alcoholic, my kids ain't. My 3 sisters and brother ain't alcoholic, their kids are. That's weird shit, isn't it? You know? They don't laugh, they don't think I'm funny, you know? Because alcohol don't do for them what it does for me. They don't understand. You know, I don't understand why they don't. Because I think it does for them what it does for me, but it don't. We're weird like that, us alkies. See, because that's what makes me alcoholic. See, what makes me alcoholic is something that differentiates me from my 3 sisters and brother. And I learned about it here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Because the very first meeting I got to, like, a guy got up in my face and said, "You're alcoholic." I said, "What?" He said, "You're alcoholic." I said, "That's a bloody mean thing to say to somebody." Say a thing like that to a dude. "What do you mean? You're alcoholic." I said, "Why'd you say that?" He said, "Because if it looks like a duck and walks like a duck and sounds like a duck and smells like a duck, it's a bloody duck. Just because he's been taking some shit and thinks he's an eagle, no, you're a duck. You're a duck, I'm a duck. Quack, quack," he went. I went, damn. This is the bloody funny farm, man, you know. Guys loving on you and shit, and ducks and eagles and shit. We're like, damn. But I thought about it. I thought, alcoholic. He said, "I'm an alcoholic." Wow, alcoholic? And then you have one of those conversations. You know those conversations you have in your head? Anybody relate to those conversations? One of the things I've learned in recovery is that I don't have no conversations with anybody who ain't in the room, you know? You know, you have those conversations go back and forth, the voices. Who relates to the voices that talk to you? You know them voices that talk to you? You know the voices I'm talking about? Them voices that just said what voices? Them voices. You know them voices? Drive you crazy. You got a drink to drown the voices, for Christ's sake, going off in your head all the time. Some days you wake up, voices are sitting on the edge of the bed. Says, I'm glad you're awake. I've been waiting to talk to you. Drive you crazy. Got a drink to drown the voices driving you crazy. They tell you shit as well. They say, you're a piece of shit, you're no good. You're going to get fired today. Your girlfriend's cheating on you, your best friend's getting some. Oh. You're alcoholic. No, you're crazy. Wait a minute, crazy, alcoholic? Well, I'd rather be alcoholic. No, can't be alcoholic, you're crazy. That's why they keep locking you up. Keep locking you up, being crazy. Because you're crazy, keep locking up. Yeah, well, they keep locking me up for being crazy, but they don't lock me up for being alcoholic. Well, I'd rather be alcoholic. Can't be alcoholic, you're crazy. Well, I want to be alcoholic. I thought, wow, I'd rather be alcoholic. Alcoholic, crazy, alcoholic. No, I'm alcoholic. He said, I'm alcoholic. Far out. I'm alcoholic. Far out. Being alcoholic was like a step up for me. I went, wow, far out. I ain't crazy, I ain't nuts, I'm alcoholic. Far out. I couldn't wait to run home and tell my best friend, the guy who told me to piss off that morning. I ran home, I said, guess what? I'm an alcoholic. I'm powerless over alcohol and my life's unmanageable. He said, no shit. I thought he was going to be surprised. Well, no one surprised, only me. You know, everybody else knew. I never knew. And I never knew what it was about me that made me alcoholic. But the duck and the eagle story was planting the seed into what it was about me, not why I was alcoholic, but what it was about me that made me alcoholic. See? What it was about me that made me alcoholic wasn't what I did because I was alcoholic. What made me alcoholic wasn't alcoholic addictive behaviour. You know, and in the beautiful book, like I identified tonight, I'm fully conceded alcoholic, it says, on page 20, if you are an alcoholic who wants to get over it, you may already be asking, what do I have to do? Well, if I have to come from a space of being an alcoholic to want to get over it, to ask, what do I have to do? And then it goes on page 30 to say, we learned we had to fully concede to our innermost self that we were alcoholic. This is the first step in recovery. So if it's the first step in recovery, I want to know what it is. Because that meant there was 2 first steps in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. The first step in recovery was to learn to fully concede to your innermost self that you are alcoholic. And the first of the 12 steps was admitting we're powerless over alcohol, that our lives have become unmanageable. 2 totally different steps, though often confused. And a lot of people, you know, plant an incorrect seed by telling a newcomer, for example, that he does the first step as soon as he goes to a meeting and admits he's alcoholic. It's not true. Nowhere in the first step does it say anything about admitting we're alcoholic. In the first step of recovery, we learn to fully concede to our innermost self that we're alcoholic. This is the first step in recovery. But then there's a first of the 12 steps. So I've got to come from the space of being an alcoholic to ask, what do I have to do? And if you ask me or somebody else like us, we will tell you 12-step program of Alcoholics Anonymous, starting with step 1. See? So I had to learn this, and I didn't know it. I didn't know what it was about me that made me alcoholic. I could admit that I was one. That was no big deal. I could admit that for years. But I didn't know what it was. I could tell you what I did because I was one. I could tell you the consequences and the results of being one. And that wasn't what it said. In one of my houses, I got 2 parrots, a blue one and a green one. Bill and Bob is their name. And I've trained them to speak. And you can stand by the cage and they'll screech out at you, I'm an alcoholic, I'm an alcoholic. Powerless, powerless. They're bloody parrots is what they are, but they can say they're alcoholic and powerless. And I didn't want to be a parrot walking around here flapping my goddamn lips saying stuff that I didn't understand or didn't know about. And if I didn't know what it was, how could I fully concede to my innermost self that I was it? And if I couldn't do the first step in recovery, how could I build a foundation to build the sobriety on? And if the foundation wasn't rock solid, what happens to anything you build on a shaky foundation? Comes tumbling down, doesn't it? That's why we got such a huge failure rate in Alcoholics Anonymous. You know, there's many winners around here, but we have a tremendous failure rate in Alcoholics Anonymous. And there has to be reasons for that, see? And I think some of those reasons are basic, simple misunderstandings of what we got here in the beautiful book, Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't know what it was about me that made me alcoholic, so I asked. I asked a lot of people, what is it about you that makes you alcoholic? They didn't know either. They thought, believed, and said they did. But you see, that duck and the eagle story, that broke the ground for me. See, what makes me an alcoholic isn't what I do because I'm alcoholic. What makes me an alcoholic is that I have an abnormal reaction to alcohol. And what that abnormal reaction to alcohol is that what separates me from my three sisters and brother, for example. My abnormal reaction to alcohol is that I react abnormally to alcohol that doesn't happen to the non-alcoholic. We think it does, but it doesn't. If you be alcoholic, this happens, and if you ain't alcoholic, it don't happen. And what that abnormal reaction to alcohol is that alcohol changes my perception of reality. That's what alcohol does for the alcoholic that it don't do for the non-alcoholic. Now, I know, I can feel you saying, yes, it does it for them too, I know this and that. It doesn't. Doesn't change. If my three sisters and brother even have a drink, sometimes they even get drunk. But it don't change their perception of reality. Come Monday morning, they take the kids to school, they pay their bills and take care of their responsibilities. Not me, I go to Tijuana, for Christ's sake. Yeah. See, alcohol changes my perception of reality because I don't like reality, I hate reality, I can't stand reality. That's why I wrote the word sober, S-O-B-E-R, son of a bitch, everything's real, you know? Don't like reality, see? And when I drink, I don't have to face reality because I hate reality. I hate this rotten world with you rotten people doing rotten things. You know, and when I drink, it changes my perception of reality. It changes me from a duck to an eagle. I go out drinking as a delicate little duck, have a few stiff ones and turn into an eagle. And go swooping around looking for prey. Alcohol change, or I call it a nerd remover. I call it a nerd remover. Alcohol removes the nerdness. I feel like a nerd, I drink, and I don't feel like a nerd. I feel like a nerd, I drink, and I don't care if I'm a nerd. I feel like a nerd and I drink and you're a goddamn nerd. Screw you. Mary in my home group, she puts it as well as I've ever heard anybody put it. She's this delicate little dudette. Badass drunk is Mary. She says when she drinks, she feels wittier, prettier and tittier. And I know exactly what she means. Yeah. She don't feel like no little wallflower when she gets going. Come on, big boy, bring it on. And I know exactly what... It don't do that for the non-alcoholic, you see. Alcohol changes my perception of reality because I can't stand reality. And I learnt that here. And I didn't know it when I got here. I don't know what you brought to recovery, but what I brought was a lot of hurt and hate. Hurt and hate, and that's what I brought. Hurt and hate. I hurt and I hate, and I hurt and I hate everything. Can't stand nothing. That was what was different on January 15th to all the other times I'd come off a 3-day run in blackouts. That was something that, and I'm going to talk about something else that happened that I didn't realise at the time either. I'm full of hurt and hate. I hate women. I can't stand women. I hate homos and queers and anybody different. I hate black people. I'm totally racist and prejudiced. I'm from London, England, living in Los Angeles, and I hate foreigners, you know. You know. I can't stand me. I hate you, and get away from me, and don't come near me. And with all that torment going on and turmoil going on inside, I still have to try and present to you a picture of somebody you will like. Because when your higher power is what people think of you, if you don't like me, I'm screwed. And I go little and inadequate inside. And guess what? On January the 15th, 1983, alcohol stopped working. Now, it didn't stop getting me drunk, and it didn't stop rotting my liver, and it didn't stop getting me in clink, and it didn't stop putting me in detox. But what it did was stop mentally changing my perception of reality. So I had a drunk body and a sober mind. And I can't do nothing about it. And I don't know what to do. And I hurt, and I hate, and I hurt, and I hate. And I got the gift of desperation. I hope you did too. G-O-D, gift of desperation. And without knowing what I was saying, and without knowing who I was saying it to, and without knowing what the consequence and the results of what I was saying was going to be, I can remember very clearly going, help me, help me, help me. What is wrong with me? What am I going to do? And asked for help from outside of myself. ASK, ask saving kit. Help, H-E-L-P, his ever-loving presence. See, what I just described to you, my friends, is what a lot of folks don't understand about hitting bottom. Hitting bottom's not mentioned in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, folks. Anybody read this book, by the way? It's a good idea, you know. And, in the beautiful book Alcoholics Anonymous, there's no mention of hitting bottom in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. Try it. Try checking it out. But it's so important that although Bill never mentioned it in the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, 12 years later when he wrote the 12 and 12, 12 Steps and 12 Traditions, in the very first step he said, why all this insistence that every alcoholic must hit bottom first? Now that's some ballsy crap to say to a bunch of drunks, isn't it? We insist that you hit bottom first. Yeah, well, hit bottom on this, Father Mucker. You know. But that's how important it is, because hitting bottom is the process that brings us back to the power we've abandoned to ask for help. And in the beautiful book it said, remember, we deal with alcohol, cunning, baffling, and powerful. Without help, it's too much for us. But there is one who has all power. That one is God. May you find him now. Well, if I got to find him, it means I ain't got him. And if he's the source and if he's the power over everything, and he either is or he isn't, and I am without him, that means I am powerless. Powerless over alcohol. And I didn't understand that when I got here. I didn't know what powerless was. You know, where I came from, you didn't admit powerlessness over nothing. Anybody that talked along those lines, you know, anybody that showed niceness or kindness and powerlessness and stuff like that, we took that as weakness and just gobbled them up and heard them and took what they had. So I don't know what powerless over alcohol means. And I asked a lot of folks, and just like being alcoholic, they didn't know. They thought, believed and said they did know. Powerless. Well, once I put a drink in my body. Well, one's too many, 1,000 ain't enough. Well, once I start, I can't stop. If when you honestly want to, you can't. All that's a result of being powerless, but that's not what powerless is. That's a consequence and a result of being powerless. You could read that in a library book. Powerless over alcohol. Powerless means no power. That wasn't hard to work out. Powerless equals no power. God equals power. Therefore, powerless equals godless. I didn't know that. How could I apply that? How could I work that out? I didn't know that. Well, you think I could work that out myself? I know we say some weird shit around here. It's a self-diagnosed disease. How can I self-diagnose a disease that I'm powerless over and tells me I ain't got it? I can't do that. Couldn't do that for years. That's why we need each other. That's why I need you and you need me. That's what we do. See, I didn't know that years before I got here, long before the onset of untreated alcoholism, this disease I got, this powerful disease, remember it says, remember we dealt with alcohol, cunning, baffling and powerful, without help, H-E-L-P, his ever-loving presence. It is too much for us. So I can't do it on my own, I need help. There's one who has all power, that one is God, may you find him now. I went, whoa, wait a minute. Cunning, baffling, powerful. The disease is cunning, baffling, powerful. But there's one who has all power, that one is God. Well, how does that jive? You mean he's got all the power except the power that the disease has got? Well, I had to work that one out, didn't we? The disease is cunning, baffling and powerful negatively. It's the negative power. God is the positive power. And I had no positive power in my life to combat the power of the disease that I was in the grips of and under the spell of, and in and of myself I was helpless, hopeless and powerless to resist its demands and had to do what it wanted me to do, which was drink. And I couldn't not drink just because I didn't want to. I couldn't just say no. I mean, I hear that shit. I don't know where it comes from. Just say no. Just say no to a full-blown alkie like me. I will drink no matter what. Not I won't. Just say no. To me, that's like telling that homeless dude out on the corner, hey, homeless dude, just get a house. Get a goddamn house, homeless dude. You prick, if I could get a house, I wouldn't be homeless. Yeah, and if I could just say no, I wouldn't be an alkie neither, you know. I will drink no matter what. Why? Because I'm in the grips of a powerful disease that I'm powerless over, but ain't powerless over me. I can't beat it, but it can, does, will, and has kick my ass. And long before I got here, years before the onset of untreated alcoholism, long before I got to Alcoholics Anonymous, the disease has gotten me to abandon God and spirituality, so that along the path of life, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly, the disease becomes all-powerful in my life and I can't get out from under. And I have no positive power to turn to because the disease has gotten me to abandon the positive power, God and spirituality. Now, I don't know that. I never knew that. I never knew that when I was 11 years old, potential alcoholic that I was. I didn't say, I'm going to abandon God and like end up in the shit in Alcoholics Anonymous. I didn't say that, but that's what happened. The disease, I was raised in a religion. You know, I'm not a Catholic basher, I don't want you to believe that. But like, it didn't work for me, and years ago, in fact, I thought about this not too long ago. My dad was a member of the CIA, Catholic Irish alcoholic. You know that, and he used to make us go to church and go to mass and do the sacraments and all that. And I don't know nothing about potentially being an alcoholic or being in the grips of this fatal disease. But you know, I can remember one time that my dad made me go to confession, gave me a whack on the head and told me, get into confession. And I hated it. I didn't like it at all. You know, you have to go to church and you go in this little room, little dark room, you know, there was this queer behind a curtain, you know, and I'm scared. I'm only 10 or 11, for heaven's sake, you know. And I just hated it, and I hated everybody, and I didn't want to be there, and I thought, I'll get even with this lot. So I took a shit in the confessional. Took a dump into the confessional, didn't I? Well, come Sunday, our parish church that we were raised in, There was a big Irish community, and every hour on the hour, the church filled up to maximum capacity, congregation for mass. Every hour on the hour, and the parish was totally Irish and Catholic. The parish priest was like a god. Nobody said a word to the parish priest, except this Sunday. This Sunday, veins are popping on his head, and he's hoarse, and he's gripping the podium, going, "Oh, shit in the confessional!" The whole town's going, "Oh my God, parish priest, who's shit in the confessional? Someone's shit in the confessional." It's me, sneaky little bastard, laughing, ha ha ha, you know, getting even, you know. The next week I went prepared, didn't I? I went in the other side, left a note, "The phantom shitter strikes again." You know? But I don't know that this part of like the disease concept getting me to abandon God and spirituality, so that I abandon all God and spirituality and cruise through life through the process of living, you know, with no God in my life. Just like the beautiful book says in the weird Gnostics thing, you know. And I end up in Alcoholics Anonymous, destitute, hopeless and powerless over the disease of alcoholism. And I have to do what it wants me to do, which is drink. And I can't not drink. I can't not drink, and once I'm drinking, I can't stop drinking. I can't stop from drinking because of the obsession of the mind. And I can't stop drinking once I'm drinking because of the phenomenon of craving. Got an obsession of the mind, allergy of the body, described as a phenomenon of craving. A craving is a feeling beyond my mental control, so I can't think my way out of doing it. So I can't stop from doing it, and once I'm doing it, I can't stop doing it. Anybody know what I'm talking about? No shit. And it makes me do it even though I don't want to do it. When I absolutely don't want to do it, when every fibre of my body's against doing it, when every desire I got in the world is to not do it, I do it anyway. Anybody know that? Yeah. And it makes me do it even though I don't want to do it. So I can't not do it just because I don't want to. I've got to not want to do it, then do these steps in this work so that I don't do what I already don't want to do. And if I ain't doing these steps in this work or ain't done these steps in this work, I will do what I don't want to do, because the disease I got that I'm powerless over will make me do what I don't want to do. You think I knew that shit when I got here? Never had a clue, never knew nothing. Till I get here with you, you know. That's why hitting bottom is so imperative, because hitting bottom is that gift of desperation where we turn back to the power, whatever form of power you may have had that you turned your back on because you didn't bring it in here with you. Otherwise you wouldn't have been powerless. And once we get here into the fellowship, you know, I turn back to God and ask for help. He came back in my life. You know, when I said in desperation, "Help me, what's wrong with me?" God seemed to be looking over my shoulder, and he seemed to say, "Mick, you silly bastard, I've been waiting for you to ask. Now get yourself over that 12-step fellowship." Sent me to you. I asked for help and he sent me to you. Because here was the power he provided for an alkie like me, like you, like us, to not have to drink today. I went, wow, that's why I know God and the power are different. You know, in the second step, it's often become quite folklorish in AA to automatically assume that a power greater than self is God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Muhammad, or any other noun you want to use. Well, it don't say that. It don't even say higher power. In the first two steps, there's no mention of God, Jesus, Buddha, Allah, Muhammad, or any other power. But it's confused to a lot of people, and it nearly ran me out of here. I mean, you guys, well-meaning, at least I hope you're well-meaning, said, "Let go and let God." I said, "What?" You said, "Turn it over to God." I said, "What?" You said, "Pray to God." I said, "Fuck off." If I pray to him, he'll know where I am. You know, I'd been ducking God for years. I wasn't going to like, "Holy Father, help. There you are, you little shit. I've been looking for you." Zap, bang. I weren't going to pray to no God that was going to get me for everything I did. God was going to get me for it. They told me. I couldn't even play with the old ding-a-ling, for Christ's sake. They said, "Don't you play with that, God will strike you blind." Holy shit. Well, you know, you tell an alkie not to do something and he will. So I did. And when I found out how good it felt, I thought, well, I'll risk one eye. You know? Well, I pray to him. I mean, no, I'm out of here for that. I don't want nothing to do with that. But you see, a power greater than self. You know, here it was. Here was a power greater than myself. Me plus you was a power greater than me. You plus us was a power greater than you. Together we could do what I couldn't do alone. I couldn't stay sober, you couldn't stay sober, but together we can stay sober. We could do what I couldn't do. You know, and here it was, a power greater than me. Me plus you was a power greater than me. You plus us was a power greater than you. And I read in the Bible, folks. You know, I quite like the Bible. You know, I've got nothing against the Bible, as long as you don't want to treat alcoholism with it, because our Bible don't treat alcoholism. Big Book treats alcoholism. B-I-B-L-E, Bible, being informed before leaving earth. I thought, oh, wow. So in the Bible I see, when any two are gathered in my name, there I will be in your midst. I went, oh, wow, far out. That's what we do in AA. Two alkies come together for the purpose of recovery, which is what we got in this room that they ain't got out there on Skid Row or in the bars or anything. You know, they say one alcoholic talking to another. Alky, that ain't no big deal. You know, you can go down any Skid Row in any town, in any country in the world and see drunks hanging out together. No big deal about that. Drunks have always hung out together. But they ain't got what we got, which is for the purpose of recovery, which is the third factor. Two alcoholics come together for the purpose of recovery. God comes in our midst and produces a power greater than either of us. See? So it's produced by us, but it's greater than us, and we can absolutely depend upon it to not have to drink today. Just like this water we're drinking, life-sustaining. You know, I thought about that. Water, we depend on it. The formula for water is H2O. 2 parts hydrogen, 1 part oxygen, water, life-sustaining. Same as what we got here. 2 drunks, 1 God, power. Power over alcohol. Here it was, right here, right now. And I could use this power to not have to drink today. I could come here and be a small part of this great whole and do what you guys taught me to do and just come along and be a member of Alcoholics Anonymous and not have to drink one day at a time. That was superb to me. That was so simple, and I went, wow, holy shit, you know. That was great. I love that. Just to be a small part of a great whole. I love that, folks. I mean, I just do. It's very precious to me, you know. I know a lot of guys, I get a lot of juice and, you know, I get a lot of rah-rah, far more than I deserve, I think. I've heard here tonight people have given me credit for saving their lives. I heard 2 people here tonight tell me I saved their life. Well, we all know who saves the lives around here. But if you want to give me the credit, I'll take it, you know, I mean. I just heard it in my old home group up there in San Fernando Valley. I was over visiting the area and I thought I'd pop into the old home group. I hadn't been there a long time because I live in Santa Monica now. And I go to the meeting, great meeting, just as it always was. Come out of the meeting, there's 2 well-known actresses, Academy Award-winning actresses that you all know by name. And I come out, I hadn't seen them in a long time, but known them for a long time. And he said, oh, hello, Mick, haven't seen you in a while. I said, no, I don't live here anymore. I live in Santa Monica, but it's good to see you again. One of them said, Mick, I didn't realise what a celebrity you've become in Alcoholics Anonymous. I said, what? She said, you're like this 12-step celebrity going around talking everywhere. You've gone on 7 continents carrying the message, and you're like this guru-type figure. Everybody knows you. She said, I'm making a movie in New York. She said, I went to 2 meetings in New York, and in both the meetings I went to, they quoted you and mentioned you by name. You're like this 12-step celebrity. I said, yeah, bloody big deal, a celebrity in an anonymous program. Yeah. Said, no, you're a celebrity. I'm just a clean and sober member. I'm just a small part of a great whole. And I love that, folks. I absolutely love that. You know, it's very precious. Nobody's more important than anybody else, and nobody's less important. We're all just one big group doing together what we couldn't do apart. A power that we have in rooms like this all over the world. And it's true, I have been on 7 continents. I've been invited to the South Pole, but I haven't been there yet. Like, I met up with a scientist from the NASA station, and he invited me down there, but I haven't been there. I've been to 7 continents, you know, and all carrying the message. You know? And everywhere I go, the first thing I do is check in with you guys. I know where I'm going. I check in. I know where the people are, and I'm blessed and grateful. I was just in India. I went to Delhi, India. And of course, the first night I get there, I go to this meeting, Alcoholics Anonymous meeting in downtown Delhi. You know? Hundreds, like a lot of people. They said, is there any visitors? I went, yeah, no shit. You know, no one else white there. I mean, I'm the only guy there. I said, yeah, I'm visiting. I'm formerly from London, England, now live in Santa Monica, and, you know, glad to be here. Come the break, they came running up, about half a dozen, and they said, oh, Mr. Mickey, we know you. We hear your CD on the internet. We carry the message to alcoholics. I don't know what's going to happen here this week. I don't know where it's going to end up. It may end up in Africa or Australia, but some alcoholic somewhere is going to get the benefit of the love that we put together here tonight. And we do that together, don't we? We come together to do together what we couldn't do apart. You see? This power that we have here. And there's a definite power right here, right now. There must be, mustn't there? I don't walk around claiming I'm powerless. Why do I do that? I don't know why we do that in Alcoholics Anonymous. Why do we walk around claiming we're powerless? Everybody's powerless, poor little powerless. Powerless, so powerless. Powerless over people, places and things, powerless. Why do you do that? You know, my first step says we admitted we were powerless, that my life had become unmanageable. Not that I am powerless and it is unmanageable. I just spoke to a guy up there in the valley, 33 years sober. He finishes every little talk that he does and share that he does with, I'm as powerless today as the day I walked in here. I said, you're 33 years sober. That's right, powerless. I said, what do you mean? You're 33 years sober, powerless over alcohol. I said, okay, what'd you do about it? He said, pray to God my understanding. I said, wait a minute, you said you're powerless. That's right, he said, powerless over alcohol. I said, I asked you what you did about it. He said, you pray to God. He said, that's right, pray to God my understanding. I said, well, make your mind up. What do you mean, he said. I said, well, if you're powerless, you ain't got a God to pray to. And if you got a God to pray to, you ain't powerless. You can't have it both ways. He didn't know what to say. He went, well, we all know you're weird. I said, I may be weird, but I ain't weird enough to listen to your crap, you know. CRAP, carrying resentments against people, yeah. But I mean, we say shit like that, you know. We got a power. Look, we must have a power, mustn't we? Right here, right now, in this very room. I don't know how many folks are here. It looks like a couple of hundred, maybe more, 300 or 400, I don't know. Pretty big meeting to me. We must have a power, mustn't we? Right here, right now, because if we really do suffer from a disease called alcoholism that we're powerless over, like we admit in our first step, that makes me do what I already don't want to do, and I can't not do it just because I don't want to, I must have a power enabling me to stay sober 27 years. Otherwise, when I leave here, I'll have to go and get drunk, because the disease I got will make me get drunk. And I got a feeling that Orange County ain't ready for 400 alkies to go out and get drunk tonight. So we must have a power, mustn't we, to enable us to go out there and not drink. And in the beautiful book, it says he can choose any concept of God he likes, provided it makes sense to him. That's a condition right there. Our book, it says of itself, our book is meant to be suggestive only. May have bloody well meant to be suggestive only, but it ain't. It's got clear-cut, precise instructions, directions, and rules to follow. You know, he can choose any concept of God he likes, provided it makes sense to him. That's why with my troops, I hold them back. I want to know what sense they're claiming to have of a power greater than themselves. Don't care what it is. You know, can have anything. Don't matter to me what it is. See, and that's one of the great things about this fellowship that we've learned. You know, whatever form of God makes sense to you is okay with us. We don't care. It doesn't matter. Because this power works for all alkies. No matter what kind of alky you are, atheist, agnostic, you know, Catholic, Jewish, Hindu, Muslim, no matter what kind of denomination you are, the power that we have in this room will work for you if you be alcoholic. See, look, we've learnt, for example, that all the gods, no matter what form of God you got, and there may be 400 different gods in this room, right here, right now. Maybe 400 different gods in this room. But all the gods have got at least one thing in common. You know what that is? All the gods send their alkies here, don't they? All the gods send their alkies here, because here's the power they provided for an alky to not have to drink today. That's good shit, isn't it? See? And so all I had to do was turn back to that God by hitting bottom. HITBOTTOM. Hurting inside, totally burnt out, turn to our master. That's what hitting bottom's about. I didn't know that when I got here, and I asked a lot of folks and they told me all kinds of weird shit. You'd be amazed at what I got told about hitting bottom. What does it mean, hit bottom this, hit bottom that? You know, they told me all the devastating circumstances, the conditions and the circumstances of their life, but they didn't know what hitting bottom was. And the outside circumstances and conditions of our life is not what hitting bottom is. We think, believe and say it is, but it's not. See, the outside circumstances and conditions of our life sometimes enable us to become capable of hitting bottom, but in and of themselves, they're not the bottom. We think they are, but they're not. And the danger of believing that those outside circumstances and conditions of our life, you know, is the bottom, is that as those outside circumstances get better and improve, we falsely believe we've gotten better and improve and drink again. Anybody know what I'm talking about? See, so hitting bottom isn't about the outside circumstances and conditions of our life. I asked a couple just recently, one little chickadee with a boyfriend in AA. They like being in AA. They're a happy little couple and they're doing the best they can. I said, it's imperative that it says in the Torah, every alcoholic must hit bottom first. Have you hit bottom? Yes, hit bottom. Tell me about it. She said, well, I was feet to the curb, hustling the Broadway, prostituting myself, trying to earn $1 so I could get loaded. I said, that wasn't your bottom. She said, well, I think it was. I said, I don't give a shit what you think. I said to her, dude, what was your bottom, pal? He said, that's easy. He said, I was locked up in a penitentiary, married to Bubba. I said, that wasn't your bottom. He said, it felt like it was. You got bad minds, you know that? Bad minds you got there. Hitting bottom isn't about the outside circumstances. Hitting bottom's an inside job, not an outside circumstance. That's why it's the same for all of us, not different. I know in our meetings we say things like everybody's bottom's different. Better not be different. There's no unity in being different. See, but it's the same. It's the same like what happened for me on January the 15th, 1983. The gift of desperation where I went, help me, help me, help me. And ask for help from outside of myself. It had to be a power greater than and outside of myself. What a gift. What a gift. You know, I didn't know any of this when I got here. I didn't know that elimination of my drinking was but a beginning. A far greater demonstration of our principles lies before us in our respective homes, occupations and affairs. I didn't know that. I thought, you know, when I found out, you know, drinking and drunk and this and that and that and this, you know, stop drinking. You know, an alcoholic who just stops drinking is in a very painful position. I don't know if you've done that, but it's not good. That's why we have to stop drinking. That's the main, and it seems glib that a lot of people say, it's no longer about not drinking, it's my thinking. Yeah. It better be about not drinking. You go down Skid Row and ask them drunks down there, what are you doing down there? I've been many, many times. What are you doing down here? Not one has ever turned around and said, can't stop thinking, brother, can't stop thinking. You know, we apply these principles to all our affairs so that we can change that what hasn't worked for us that we had to drink over, but we change and grow in able to not drink and to become the people that God wants us to be. I know what God's will for me is. I know what God's will for you is, as a matter of fact. God wants me to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free. That's what God wants for his alky kids. He wants us to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free. And he doesn't say, I want you to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free, so now go and please me. He says, my child, I know you have difficulties. I want you to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free. So I've developed a beautiful, wonderful way of life for you to live by. Here it is, Alcoholics Anonymous. Thank you, Father. God wants me to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free. He wants you to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free too. That's what my will and my life is. My will is my thinking, my life is my actions. He wants me clean and sober, happy, joyous and free. If you've got a God who don't want you to be clean and sober, happy, joyous and free, get rid of the bastard. You know. I don't know none of that when I get here. You know, we get to apply these principles to all our affairs. Yes, I've got to stop drinking, and yes, it's about staying stopped and over the long haul. But we don't just stop drinking. You know, like Conquered, like the book in We Agnostic, you know, we've been conquered. Conquered. What happens when something's conquered? When the German army were conquered, you couldn't just leave Germany conquered. We had to then rebuild and recover. And that's what happens when the disease has conquered us. We need to then build and recover to apply these principles to all our affairs. I don't know about you guys here in Orange County. Us down there in Santa Monica, we have affairs. We're not very good at them, but we don't give them up, you know. I've seen a few of you vamping around here tonight, looking and, you know, speculating. You know. Affairs. I wrote a word for relationships. Anybody good at relationships? You know, RELATIONSHIP. Really exciting love affair turns into outrageous nightmare. Sobriety hangs in peril. Yeah. But we got to apply these principles to all our affairs. I guess I've got to wrap it up. Been going an hour or so. I'm just getting started. But you know, those folks out there, they don't understand us. That's why we come here, to be one among many, don't we? My mum loved me dearly and never understood me till just recently she passed. She never understood me till the day she passed. She loved me dearly. And she loved bragging about me to her friends in the old Derby and Joan Club back in England. You know, I used to go back home every year to see her, you know, at least once, often twice, sometimes 3 times to go home to see me mum. And first thing I'd do when I hit the shores of the UK, I'd go straight round my mum's house and knock her up and tell her, Mum, I'm 27 years sober. She'd say, so is the cat. She didn't give me no pat on the back for not doing something I shouldn't have done anyway. You know, say I'm busy, I'm going to bingo, you know. But you know what? She'd say to me, Mickey, you got to send me some more CDs, or you got to let me know what you're doing. All the old girls down the Derby and Joan want to know how you're doing. They all want to, they keep saying to me, how's your Mickey in America, Mary? How's Mickey doing in America, Mary? and she would poke out her chest. And she would brag and tell lies, you know. Because she was proud, her kid was doing good. You know, her friends and neighbours never used to say to her, "How's your Mickey in America, Mary?" They used to say, like, "Are they going to let your Mickey out the nut ward for Christmas this year, Mary?" You know. And she would cry and hurt because she loved me, and I didn't know anything about that. But she died with a smile on her face, happy and content. She was immensely proud, you know, of the things that I brought to her. I come out of a nut ward for the criminally insane. You know, the flag that... One time I was there in the Capitol building, and I sat in the Speaker's chair on the floor of the House of Representatives, looking out over the floor, and, you know, and it struck me as weird, it struck me as funny, you know. What am I doing here? Holy shit, what am I doing? I'm sitting in the Speaker's chair on the floor of the House of Representatives in Washington, D.C., in the most powerful nation in the world. I come out of nut wards for the criminally insane. And I went into a laughing fit, and I laughed so hard I fucking slipped off the chair. Just like that. You know, there was congressmen and that around me, you know, and they didn't know what was going on, and they picked me up and they went, Mick, what's the matter? I said, you'll never understand. What? They said. I said, well, I'm nuts, I'm crazy. How do I get to sit in the Speaker's? How does somebody who's nuts and crazy get to sit in the Speaker's chair, the floor of the House of Representatives? They looked at me weird. They said, it happens every day. But they took me up to the Capitol building, you know, and you know, if you don't think that Alcoholics Anonymous contributes to this beauty, you know, and that has far outreaching, you know, preciousness, way beyond not drinking. They flew the American flag from the top of the Capitol building, and they took it down. They have a little ceremony, and they fold it up in the special way that you guys do, and it ends up in that triangular shape. I saw it at the president's funeral there. And they put it in a glass-fronted cabinet, and on the front of that cabinet was, "This flag flew over America to celebrate Mickey Bush's birthday." And they sent that to my mum in England. And she had it on her mantelpiece. Pride of place. Everybody come in and got a flag, my Mickey. How does that happen, folks? How does a guy like me who comes out the nut ward for the criminally insane get to give comfort to an old lady in the twilight of her years? How does that happen? Happens right here. Happens right here in Alcoholics Anonymous. Recovering from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. Right here. Me plus you plus us, is a power greater than self. That when we do together what I couldn't do apart, we can stay sober. Namaste.
I think we got a great talk going on here. Thanks for watching the channel. Taper Dave here. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. So I pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst, then one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. And if that shows up, the gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.